Well, hi. This is Jeff. I'm gonna not have this jacket on. This is Jeff with Final Boss. We are doing a quick edit of 667's story Clouds. I've been told, quote, and I quote, that it's a doozy. So that'll be interesting. And then I have Sopho's by Grover as well. So I'll try to keep each edit around 45 minutes or so, but I want to try to get as far as I can. So I'm going to launch right in because I still have to write somebody a recommendation letter tonight. So I have a few odds and ends, unfortunately, left, but let's see how it goes. Probably, I'm already seeing some content stuff, so we'll see. I don't usually do too much graphic stuff on stream, but we'll find out what I'm in for here. All right. I do want to play that. All right. I throw in my daytime pill, the one that tastes like rotten dandelions, in September. All right. So the first thing I would say is it's an interesting opening line, but hard to visualize. And every time, i.e., what does September taste like? Cinnamon? I think that's how you spell cinnamon. But yeah, so like it's really, really hard to place what you're trying to say. So while this is a cool metaphoric start, it also borders on being unclear, which can also be a bit of a risk there. 667, how's it going? I'm drunk enough for this. Go! Rihanna, Bookfish, how's it going? Hey, Sfu, welcome. Sorry I was a little bit late tonight, but the Foxy Lady and I are watching The Good Place, which is absolutely hilarious. That's been a really, really fun kind of show, and I'm a little tired, so I'm not going to stay up too late because I had some insomnia last night. So wish me luck on getting to sleep tonight, but I might only do 45 minutes or 40 minutes or so on each. So I'm going to try to get going as quickly as I can. Nah, he's insane. Remember, when you're getting feedback, just take in the data. The one reason I feel like they always caution writers whenever they say, "Oh, this is why X, Y, or Z," to doing that is less because like I don't care, like it's kind of like your prerogative. But the one reason I think they actually tell writers to kind of just absorb some of the feedback is just to think and see um if it's there or not, because it's so like the first impulse of a writer is to think through your rationale of why you did something. So even though like you can tell me like Jeff, you're dumb, you're wrong, but whatever, I won't care. I'll be like, oh, it's your choice. But just remember, just absorb it. You know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but don't make your mental decision on that until maybe like an hour or so from now. Just try to just take it in as raw data. That would be my best encouragement, if that's helpful. I mean, but still, like ask clarification questions. That's totally fine. But in terms of saying I meant it this way, I would try to put as much space between yourself and that as possible. And I think the reason is yeah, just so you can have the note, sit with it objectively for a little while, then go from there. Anyways, it lands in my wastebasket, the one closest to Pacific. Pick up my voice recorder with the fresh tape and click record. Tape 976, year 6. That music's playing again, and I hear it through the walls, playing in front of me. The biggest problem is the apartment complex, the neighbors. Um, okay, so the tape, so as much as your character is crazy, you still never ever want to compromise clarity. So like I need a little bit of context about what this tape means to this character before I feel like I can get into the tape. So like, what does this tape mean to the character? Is it a diary? A And maybe that could be the premise of the story, but then we'll need more concrete details about other things. I feel like we're starting really sparse on details, so it's kind of throwing us into um, just a lot of like, writing, like stuff that's like, oh, cool, like cool, really great turns of phrase, really cool imagery, but that sometimes is really much harder to pull off, I feel like, early on. If you're late, it's easier for me to catch your stream. Nice. It's 8 in the morning here. Woof. Wow, then you're early. On each, doing more than one today? I hope so. I hope so. I'm going to try to make it so the final can make that mistake. I can't make that mistake. So what does it say? Mean? Is it a diary, a story he's writing? I feel like more detail is required about the frame of your story before we launch into it. Like even if it's something like I'm gonna put it on, you know, you can make it as crazy. That's like a really bad example. Editing some 667, I am indeed. I'm very excited. 667 is a great, great writer, and it's fun because I feel like some of the challenges 667 runs into, it's not the same as you see with like some people who are like still kind of saying, okay, how do I structure a scene? How do I just put together a paragraph that is like bringing the story forward? A lot of it's, 667 is a very stylistic writer. So, obviously it's sort of like, how do you still have that amazing style, that kind of punchy, in your face style, but also convey the story? And obviously, like, I'm more on the opposite spectrum. So, like, 667 should take some of my notes with a grain of salt, I think, because I am much, much more getting the prose out of the way a little bit. But anyways, off we go. Damn neighbors in that song, Christmas Carol? No, but it's definitely Christian. Yes, Jesus loves me, over and over, and they repeat it for me to kill me now. I sit with my back against the wall in a small studio apartment downtown Chicago. So he's saying this on the tape. So that's the thing, like, because we're in his mind. This is interiority, right? Like, so this is pretty much just the continuation of the tape. So, like, the distinction between the frame and the tape doesn't feel that strong to me, right? Um, you know, the I think the problem I'm having right now is the way the frame is set up. Um, because we have a frame, the frame sounds identical to the tape. It's first person. It's very introspective first person. It's very stylized introspective first person. And lo and behold, the tape is just the same thing. And I think one thing to consider is if you're doing a frame, just is there a way that can be different? Like, what would that look like in a that wasn't identical to the way they tape? And like a silly example would be like, oh well, maybe it's just the narrator, like a third person narrator, like dictating the scene. Um, those in what Twitch is kind of cool and nerve wracking both when you get to watch someone edit your text live, right? Yeah, it is. I feel kind of bad, but I feel like it's a helpful exercise. Sit my wall down at Chicago on the frame, and the yeah, okay. My apartment is laid out quite simply, organized. Everything is placed at. I feel like 667 is pretty thick-skinned, and let me know if you're like, yo, Jeff, it's just too much. But yeah, so I'm gonna kind of be a little bit more direct with my feedback because I've given 667 feedback before, and I think he kind of is coming at it with the same goal, which is just, every piece of writing is a product. It's an expression product. You're trying to get someone to buy into this thing. You're trying to get someone to turn the next page, to spend their time to buy your story. Um, so I think like 667 has that approach. So I'm going to be a little bit more direct, I think, just in terms of like, hey, like these are some of the things to keep an eye out for. So you're good. Okay, great. Are we gonna have to report you 667 to Twitch safety? I'm just kidding. Um, but yeah, be careful though. Like you shouldn't. I wouldn't joke too much about that because I'm sure Twitch will be like, "Yo, your stream is causing people to do self harm," and I would feel really bad if that was actually the case. So my apartment is laid out quite simply, organized. Everything is placed. I love the use of one-word sentences here. I think these are really effective. I'm a big fan of one-word sentences. Oh goodness, I pressed the wrong button. They add a lot of style and one-word paragraphs. You kind of have the swear word. I won't say it because I don't want to. If someone's listening, but I guess they can read it. Whatever. But anyways, but you kind of one thing I will say is I'm not seeing too many long sentences. And one of the ways that makes those sentences more, and I'm kind of just doing a quick glance over these paragraphs, is there's a lot of and I think you want this character's style to be choppy, but it does, that just know that that's going to kind of guide you more towards that very like staccato rhythm in your story. Whether that's what you're going, I think that's kind of what you're going for. But sometimes that can even get heightened if there is a little bit more variability in sentence length. You see, okay, according to its nature, you see, nature of things is quite important to me. In fact, the most important thing in the world. If things aren't according to their nature, well, I'll just leave it at that. So, like, this is like a place where maybe, a longer sentence could be, because this guy is jumping back and forth, right? So, like, having the sentence structure mimic the 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 mental state is really helpful. So, I like the short sentences. But this might be yeah, I don't want to be too prescriptive, so let me know if that's too prescriptive. Yeah, indeed. Reported. When you're a writer, you're pretty much working for the entertainment industry, so having a thick skin pretty much is a requirement. Yeah, very, very true. I mean, that's what it's all about, is you're in the entertainment business if you're trying to make a career out of it. And I think, like, that's the whole idea, right? Is like, but even if you're just saying, like, I'm doing art, you are still bargaining with someone's time. And as an artist, you should be just knowing the choices you're making are affecting the product, and saying, hey, like even if I'm giving it away for free or passing it out on the street and saying, hey, this is art, I hope this makes an impact, you're still asking someone to trade time for value, right? At the very, very end. So it's always a product and it always can, and it's helpful, I think, to think about it that way because it gives you just a little bit of distance from it, and just saying, hey, look, I can step back and think, okay, how do I just make this as effective of a product as possible? At the room's center sits my wooden table, 4 legs. I probably see. So I wonder this, is this something we need to know? Don't all tables legs? Is there a reason to call this detail out? Remember, every time you like call out a detail, that's like valuable real estate. So, um, yeah, uh, it might be necessary, but it didn't feel like that in at least this look. See, I probably didn't even have to tell you about its legs. Oh, well, I guess you're doing that. Never mind. Okay, never mind. Ignore. Say about its legs. You understand nature too. Maybe you've never considered it. I'm going to go a bit faster now, so try to keep up. On my table is a circular tablecloth, white, smelling like lavender, honey, and tile painted basket, woven strong. Strong because it holds every type of fruit I want to place inside. It's gentle because I can rub it with my thumb and forefinger and make it sound like a living tree or something. Or at least how I imagine a tree to read. But I almost remember what they sound like trees. I click stop on my keyboard hammer. Slip the window open ever so slightly, slipping the tape through. You have a kind of repeating word, slip and slipping. Repeat word bumps out of the read a little. Until I hear it crashing the sidewalk. That was a close one. If anyone ever gets the wrong impression of me, speaking of things on things like trees, they might suspect that I left the apartment. I couldn't have evidence of that lying around for anyone to find it. They thought I actually left, and maybe, just maybe, they would take me away, like last time. My entire body quivered in a 3-month-old jello. Hmm. Hmm. Being another ain't that bad. Yeah, it's a great job. I love writing. I come from the TV set opposed to the movie set, and was fired and instantly replaced once because I couldn't come up with a good sentence within 15 minutes, and nothing shocks me anymore. Good, that's intense. Man, that's not very nice. Whoever fired you. I couldn't have evidence of that thing, of that just lying around for anyone to find it. If they thought I'd actually left it, then maybe they'd take me away, like last time. Um, One thing is here, I'm not necessarily. I get that he doesn't like it, but I wonder if you can. I'm not getting a sense of like what that entailed. Like, was other flashes of imagery that makes it, I get that he doesn't want to go back, but because he's an unreliable narrator, I don't know if his assessment is true. So I don't feel the stakes. So I don't feel the stakes as acutely. Like, would a flash of imagery sell his story better? Or, you know, a prop, a torture item from the last visit? Just food for thought. So that's the thing. So I don't know if this is kind of a tricky note. And I think it's a note that I don't often give because unreliable narrators aren't super common, or at least not in stuff I generally read on stream. So one of the things I think to think about is when you're writing an unreliable narrator, no one is buying what they're selling. But the easiest way to start making the reader start believe what they're starting to say is to use stuff like concrete details, imagery, smell, the senses, because and it could still be the narrator reporting to us the senses, but once we, the reader, experience those senses, we start to believe it, right? So if he's like, they would take me away, the black lights, like the dark room, the oil smell, the pits, so many pits, like whatever that is, like that's going to immediately give us a sense like being taken away is something very catastrophic to this character and something very actually horrible. So it'll deepen those stakes because the challenge is when you have just an unreliable narrator telling you he didn't like it, you don't get that. You don't buy it, right? Expect because like you can get away with telling, and it's like not like bad thing telling, but like you can get away with just being like, hey, this is, if it's a normal narrator, like be like, I don't want to go back. That's enough for a normal narrator. But you might have to use imagery so the reader can experience it themselves, and they'll be more likely to buy that story that whatever this narrator is envisioning is something truly catastrophic. Um, my entire body quivered like a 3-month-old jello. I like this image. The only oopsie, I think I'm. Oh darn it. Oh darn it. There we go. Is that better? There we go. Yep. Okay. I like this jello, but jello and body quivering, I feel like is like a very used image. So I like the 3-month-old, like example in the house. The house. I don't like the jello. Jello aspect of it because I've seen jello equals body fat 6 times. Nothing about the Batman. They can't hurt you there, you idiot. So yeah, again, this is telling. Like what if it's a specific bad man? Like right? Don't think about Dr. Clampett. Whatever. Um, again, the higher, level in abstraction we are, the harder it is to buy the story the unreliable narrator is telling. For example, Bad Men is not as sharp as Dr. Dreadmore or whatever. Whatever the name is. Three-inch-old jellyfish is taking notes. She's currently writing a series in which the MCs are taking turns narrating the first person. Oh, nice. First person's a lot of fun. I really, really like first person narration. Unreliable narrators are really challenging. So first off, like whenever I'm giving notes on an unreliable narrator, like just know that like this is a much more advanced technique. Like an unreliable narrator is really hard to pull off, really hard to manage because they can really run away with the story and they can take it in a direction maybe the writer doesn't even intend for it to go. But remember, this guy has to work for you. You're his boss, so you still have to guide that. But yeah, it's just a more advanced technique, I guess. So there's going to probably be some more gotchas. There's going to be some more pitfalls. And it didn't feel right. No, and that's kind of the idea, and that's why you get edits, right? Is so that you can, if you have a gut check on something, and you're like like I don't know exactly what I want to do. I mean, that's why editors exist, right? Because they can say, hey, that gut check you had was probably in the right direction. They can't hurt you here, you idiot. And I need to keep my mind on other things. I could attempt to make my voice tape. Make my voice tape in a little while after I calm down. My voice tape. Just an odd phrasing. Is that like a proper noun? Or is using a weird turn of... So this is a little bit of a longer story, so I'm going to try to go a little faster. I want to try to finish it, but I am trying to be as diligent on time as I can so I can get to Grover's story too. 37-inch widescreen, 4 inches away, perfect. A ton of television is still static. Low hum of music. Where are my glasses? Jesus love me. Sing to the floating tune next door. I threw my tape. Thank you for the host. Oh, Bookfish, much obliged. I want to know the MCs take turns in the first person, partly because I want to see what happens when they all describe the same things. That's awesome. I'm actually doing something similar in the novel I'm writing recently, where I have different point of view characters, but I'm writing it all in a very, very close third, so it kind of blends into first. It's very similar to first person in terms of execution, close third. So that's awesome. The tape recorder as well. It splays out like a spider of electronic working, stumbles on the floor at first to memorize. I see something so beautiful. Clockwork. Okay, loves the clockwork. No way. I pounce the magnum opus at the magnum opus. Like a feline on the vermin, using my thumb and forefinger like pincers. I think we're getting a little heavy. I would do a simile check on your story. This is similes. I just search your story. Ensure it's intended. This could be part of characterization, but it's starting to grate a little. So like yeah, if you really just want if this how much of the story editing? 5 pages. I'm gonna try to like go as much as I can. But yeah, it is 7 pages, which is really 14 pages double spaced. Don't worry, Final Boss knows single space and double space. I'm just kidding. I know it's probably just how you wrote it, so I don't. I might just do it double space just so I can be have a good gauge, and it's a little easier. Oh my god, don't number it. Oh my god, why? Why did it do that? There, that's what I want. It's just a little easier on my eyes. Okay. Um, Yeah, but I would go through and just sanity check your similes, because like if it is, hey, some characters speak in like kind of tried similes, some characters speak in cliches. If it's part of his voice, then keep it. But I would still recommend just like just really watch it, because too many like a cat onto a mouse, you know, like pincers, you know, using my thumb and forefinger, like especially like the like pincers, like that one I feel like is just a little extra. Just a little not necessary. Where is the spacing one? All right. All right. All right. No, this is all wrong. And back down. I leave it westward. Hardly. Okay. Single tear rolls down my cheek. Beautiful. I set my hands. I watched for so long, then I sobbed. Never has there been fallen corpse of my voice recorded. Yes, but the birth is something new. Birth of a new era. Some woman's path I travel. Using one of my new god. Using one of my eyes. I tumble and crack. Okay. This section I feel like I'm bumping into a bit of lack of stakes, maybe. I get that he's enamored by the, broken recorder, but I don't, I don't have stakes as a reader, I don't, have a reason to root for his, infatuation with this stuff. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I've been given so little. Um, Freak out. Second that. Yeah, it's a good answer to the writing prompt. Oh yeah, but the note here is you've given the character stakes, but you have not given the reader stakes. And I believe some of it is lack of clarity. Like, remember, drama is not just conflict; it's conflict and exposition, right? Um, and one of the reasons that is right, like right now this is just conflict. This is some guy freaking out over a tape recorder. Conflict, 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 conflict. But there's no exposition to make me as a reader see value in that imagery unless give the reader some stakes. Yeah, I want a ribeye, no. Uh, but the thing I would really think about it is why should I care about his infatuation with the voice recorder? What is going to, you know, so like some way, like, and also this is all through his eyes. Like I'm not getting his like physical, reactions. Like I'm not getting much sensory input here. So like I feel like I'm listening to another tape, which pushes me further away from the stakes of the situation. So that's another challenge I think with having the tape and the frame. So having the tape that he recorded and the frame story that is kind of like the first person sounds so similar. There just isn't enough of a blur, so it just sounds like a few layers removed from the reality of the situation. Because like I know this character cares about it so much, but I don't feel the same amount of care that he feels, right? I'm not getting the physical sensations. I'm not getting like I don't have like why doesn't he describe like he says beautiful, but the only description of the this is the only description we get of it of the interlocking mechanisms. We get 2 sentences of the interlocking mechanisms. We get 2 sentences of what he sees, and then like 2 paragraphs of reaction. Why don't we invert that? You know, why doesn't he? Because he's staring at it. Why isn't he describing it in excruciating detail? That would show me more of his infatuation with the beauty of order than just having him, distill what he's seeing into a word like beautiful. 2 sentences on the actual image, actual sensory image, of the device, but 2 paragraphs of his emotions. Can't we use more imagery, to convey his infatuation? Why wouldn't he loving describe every gear? That's what's happening in his head. And so I think, like, my note here, honestly, is, this is supposed to be, I think, like, I would just read some stream of consciousness stories and to say, okay, how does someone do stream of consciousness? Because I think one of the techniques for stream of consciousness is hyper detailing. And that's very prevalent in stuff like Virginia Woolf's stories. It's very prevalent in James Joyce. Gosh, what is this thing? Ulysses. It's very, very contextual stream of consciousness, and obviously the James Joyce one I think just airs a little bit too much on the side of experimentation, and it's just not really as digestible. I think Virginia Woolf does a good job. I wish I have Virginia Woolf up there. I could pull and read an excerpt, but maybe I'll do it later if it's not too late. You can remind me if you guys care to know. I won't get offended if you don't. Several minutes pass, and piece by piece, through the intricacies of my newfound God, using only my eyes, I tumble and crack. It's so dark and delightful, like chocolate, and I slide down each individual wire. Okay, this is getting better. What a wonderful ride. Then a knock at the door. So, like, yes, I like this. This is stronger. Yeah, I'm just gonna do stronger. Stronger. Do we need all this stuff in the middle? My heart drops for any stories and cracks. I had forgotten what I'd ordered out to eat. I smacked myself in the face with a flat hand, but only once. Level 1 blunder. I like this. I like that there are rules. I really like this. Here are advertisers, and particularly as level 2. Level 1 sings quite a bit, though. Spring to my godly creation and hover there, protecting. Yes, he doesn't like water. The chicken fries from Burger King was too important to pass up. That's true. But how is he able, if his mouth is so dry, how is he able to record? How is he able to record his, tape? I slide it. Let me see. These two. There we go. A little easier to see. Then he leaves. Okay, so it pours in my forehead. Had he seen it? No, that being past the table is blocking the table. Going to use nature, all 4 legs, and I allow myself a bit of recovery time with my breath. Weld with wet. Kind of an odd word choice, you know. Um, I like this. Yeah, and you guys, you know, I'm going a little bit more fast, but you know, if anyone ever does a paid edit, you know, I will be very detailed through the whole thing, just for the record. I always wonder if people are like, "Oh God, he just kind of blasts through half the story." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's a free edit on Twitch. What do you expect?" Um, but paid edits are different. And from here I pulled forth the sword crown of my stone king. Okay, I like this. I like this. Oops. I like this a lot. I still just feel so distant. I feel like we're just watching someone being very silly, and I don't have a reason to care. And I don't know exactly. I don't really have. I wish I had like a really great answer for that. I think some of it has to do with the fact that we're not getting much concrete detail. We can't really experience the scene, but his stakes aren't real. You know, all the stakes in the story are make believe. Like they're in this guy's head. Um, so it's not very realistic in terms of stakes. I think, you know, feeling connection to the story and the stakes, because the only stakes we've been given are imagined by the protagonist. What do you mean, like a frame story? So the frame story is the overarching, like an overarching story to which smaller episodes are delivered. This wasn't really using a frame. It kind of, I thought it was going to be that way because there's this whole section that's like a voice record up here, and I thought it was going to be epistolary. So I was calling this external, you know, scene event the frame stories, but I don't think that's the case because I don't even see it go into a voice recorder except the very, very end. Um, All right, so I'm going to kind of go a little faster because I want to try to give overall notes about the plot if I can. And it's not like super long, so if I kind of just blast through some of it. So you guys chicken fries, what 1 hour to be exact, you know. Um, Forgetful Simulator. I believe there's some Batman thing. I'm crazy. I'm looking at what I sing. Don't care any longer. I actually love this song. Uh-huh. Yes, Geronimo loves me. Like that's pretty funny. Um, I finished one that's on 6 fries on top of 6 napkins. I gasped. No, no, no. I mean, this revelation, you know, like this is a funny, you know, revelation, but it doesn't really strike home. You know, I like that I see the logic of how this became the Antichrist, but I want to see the logic for how he decided it was God in the first place. You know, just the beauty of order, of its order. You know, those are the things to kind of think about. Right? What do you want? What is it, Geronimo? I need to get closer. He tells me to stop the music, of course. So he goes crazy. I'm not going to take no for an answer. A little bit of odd phrasing here. I like this. I like this image, but I feel like it needs to get like this image, but the phrasing is a little clunky. Yeah, it's just in your conference. They went over his next door. Before Geronimo can protest, I grabbed the handle of the strong and gentle basket. And the nutritional, delicious chicken fries. Yeah, I think that while this is funny, I feel like the tone is very, you know, feel like this disagrees with the tone I've been presented with. Insanity, and while, we're insanity, but he's still cracking jokes. Even though, you might argue yeah, I mean, like, even though you say, oh, well, he's not really making those jokes, you have to be insane to like chicken fries. Well, then call me crazy, 667, because I like chicken fries. Burger King chicken fries are good. Only thing is outside. At least when I remembered having them years ago, I didn't mind them. They weren't bad. But maybe I'm just crazy. So I'm assuming he's gonna go and kill everybody in the next room. So this is what I'm just gonna tell you my prediction. My prediction is that he kills everyone in the next room and records his tape. Maybe not. Maybe we're gonna get a big twist. I'm excited. I run back into the room. I can't handle all this. I like my door and by but how I painted it look like outside? Blasphemy. This was a bad idea. Okay, runs back. Okay. I mean, that's the thing. This is kind of just becoming. Yeah, again, 7, 8, 9 comedy. Doesn't feel like it agrees with the tone. Yeah, I think like the tonal aspect of this is having some challenges. Throw up the door, waves of music, okay, terrible smell, fight it off. I click the stop button from the first time once. Trying to see Genevieve's okay. I make killer music and something like so that like his actual self. Um, is this like, is that person his actual self? While his mind, is running through this like, adventure. Uh, oh, I guess the guy's dead. Interesting. So I guess his neighbor's dead. Right, what do I do? If this like, this feels so again, like you don't know if this is real. So like because we haven't had much scene yet, we doubt what's, whether this is real or not. I wonder if cutting some of the beginning and giving some description, is, might help. Feels like there's too many distracting things in the story. So hard to like keep track of like what I should actually care about. Oh yeah. Then he says something about the avocados. Oh, I read it. He smells like bad avocados. Maybe only I think it's funny. Yeah, yeah. I read that line. Um, I should trick me. The devil. I'm foolish, gullible. I'm closest to the Atlantic. Can't pick me a voice recorder. Wow. Okay, so like it's a fun story. I kind of yeah, like I think overall, let me think. A little sleepy. Not because of the story, but because did not sleep so great last night. So let me see if I can collect my thoughts. The good, I loved, liked the tone, the style, and the voice of the character. The interiority was well done. Probably a little too much in the center. Improve, I think one thing is, tone. Humor, versus, the humor undermines, the fear the character is feeling. We lose a lot of tension and stakes because the character is cracking jokes. So we think, it can't be that serious. The other things to think about, the 2 lines. Oh, the 2 lines. Yeah, I've been kind of going pretty fast. About this part. Yeah. So again, I think the detailing is one of the huge problems. Um, you know, we don't get much scene early on, so when we jump into scene later, and have more sensory description, it's it takes on the distance of the stuff that of the earlier parts of the story and doesn't seem as real. The last thing I would say is the managing the unreliable narrator. In this draft, it feels like the narrator's voice took control of the story. We lost, like, you know, the reader, doesn't, if the reader never has a starting point of reality, they won't even realize when the narrator pulls the rug out, because there was never a rug. So that's the thing. Like, in order to have an unreliable narrator pull the rug out from you, you have to establish a reality. You have to establish a rug. And I don't think we ever had that. So when we're jumping between this narrator's room and going back and forth and the tapes again, like, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. There's not a twist. It's just, I think the unreliable narrator did get away from you a little bit, and because of that, because there's never a thing that I really believe is real, the whole story just feels very muddy, because then everything is unreal, everything is potentially just imagination, and so that kills the stakes. There's nothing really at stake here. It kills the conflict, because it's really just some guy just freaking out. And it kills the ability to twist your story. Like, there's not really a twist because we never started somewhere, you know. So I'm wondering, and I've been drinking a lot, but if the humor is for the reader only, but the character doesn't find it funny, it could work. Like, the character is serious, but the reader is supposed to find it funny. So yeah, that's kind of exactly what I talked about, and that's totally fine. So that's like a totally reasonable question, because you would say, hey, well, that's kind of like a joke. So like that will happen a lot. Okay, so that's a technique that's used a lot in close third person, right? Because, yeah, I'm saying the character is 100% serious. 100% believe that. But that technique works better in close third person, where there's a narrator, because pretty much what happens is the way the narrator describes the character makes a joke, and the character's unaware, but the narrator and the reader can laugh together, right? So there's some sort of camaraderie between the narrator, the hey cat, don't claw, that's rude. There's some sort of camaraderie between the reader and the narrator. But if, on the other hand, it's just the first person and the reader is laughing directly at what they don't realize they're saying, or the joke they don't realize they're saying, that can work, but these jokes are just a little too obvious and like a little too fine-tuned, but they're also against the tone in a different way, right? Like, this guy's freaking out about his god. His deity is a tape recorder. Like, he's really really freaking. So I would just make sure that, like, you can have some very subtle things that the reader laughs at, but he's not necessarily going to be like those delicious chicken fingers, or chicken fries, right? Because he's panicking. He's counting the chicken fries and realizing they're, like, so like the example I kind of called out was the chicken fry one about them being delicious. Yeah, right here. As if the power of Geronimo had been invested in my genes and fueled by the nutritional and delicious chicken fries. You know, that's kind of funny because he's in his head, but it doesn't agree with where he is emotionally, right? Like, I hate it more than anything I ever existed. That's like 2 paragraphs ago. And he thinks he thinks this thing is the devil, and suddenly, like, he's like, this is the Antichrist reborn, but then suddenly he becomes allies with it. um so then, like, I don't really get, just don't hurt me. um yeah, so he's like terrified, right? Like, so the only reason he's following Geronimo's orders is because he is scared. He is so scared. Is he really gonna make? And he's terrified to go outside. He's terrified to disobey Geronimo. Is he really gonna make a crack about how delicious the chicken fry, or even a comment, even if it's not an intentional crack. Is he really going to talk about how delicious the chicken fries were? No, he should be terrified, at least if you're being true to how his emotions, because that's the thing. You're portraying his emotions one way, and then you're making him say something that's opposed to that. It's like you can kind of get away with like the joke thing, but the problem is that joke in particular betrays a different emotion. It betrays levity. It betrays, thinking about chicken fries, where you've set him up to be terrified for his life. Both from Geronimo, both from going outside, both from all these different sources. I hope that helps. And obviously, feel free to I'm going to put the video of the edit up, and if you have more questions, just let me know. Especially, and feel free to rewatch it when you're, I mean, hey, if the whiskey, it's like, if you've had a few too many drinks, totally fine. Feel free to rewatch it. Ask me another night, and I'll be happy to kind of clarify. If it, but you're probably fine. But that kind of goes back to tone, right? And this is the thing where it's like, if we set him up as terrified, and he makes, off, someone terrified wouldn't make offhand remarks. They're usually focused on the object of their terror. Right, so they're usually only thinking about the object of their terror. They're not, I mean, you think about times where, you've been really scared, or I've been really scared, or even if it's anxiety, or even if like you have like a really bad, spell of anxiety, or like my OCD is being more intense. Yeah, I'm not thinking about how delicious chicken fingers are, even if that, even if I don't realize that line's funny, that's not, my mind's not anywhere near that. I'm just laser beamed in on the object of terror, right? So that doesn't feel just authentic to the way reality would work. Maybe, yeah, and that's fine. I think, yeah, and obviously like it kind of, I think the thing is like I've seen this character. What if I'm the insane narrator? Oh no. Well, this character has been playing his fear very straight. Like he's made offhand comments, but it's very like about solving a problem. Like he's explaining something to me. He's explaining like, okay, this is my tape recorder, this is that. But then once he zeroes in on something, oh, can you hear me now? Hello, hello. Better, better. Okay. So yeah, so you're right in the fact that this, so think about this character, right? How have you set up this character? Because like you're right, some people can crack jokes, or even make jokes. Like in the Dresden Files, they set up the main character Harry Dresden, that when he is scared, he's talking crap to monsters. He's lipping off to monsters. Um, but all you have really to know this character is what you've set up in this story. And early on, he's a little more, he just has a very distracted, he has a very distracted mind, right? He's very all over the place. Then once he feels the tape recorder is his deity, bam, everything, all the blinders shut, he focuses completely on that. So that indicates, you're signaling to me that this person, is like drifting, and then laser beam. That's the signal I got. Obviously, you can develop that however you choose, but that's at least the impression I got, and that's kind of why I slowed down a little bit in that section. So, first off, though, overall, great job. I love the imagery. Did I put that in the good? I definitely should have, because I thought the imagery was super solid. Yes, I like the style and the voice. I love, loved the use of imagery and sensory detail, because you did bring in a lot of sensory toward the end. Toward the end, I thought that was like a lot stronger. I felt like the second half was a lot stronger. I feel like the second half. Yeah, I feel like the prose in the second half. Like I feel like, yeah, you still want to kind of get a sense, or at least you, the reader or the writer, should know what's real, what's fake, because like I just never got what reality was, and so I couldn't care. It was really hard to have stakes in this story. I really wanted to care about this character, but I just couldn't. There wasn't something real that I could like get a feeling that I was able to latch on to. So that might be something to really think about in future revisions. But other than that, I thought it was great. A lot of fun. A really, really fun story. All right, The World of Sopho. Okay, so this is 11 pages. I don't know if I'll be able to do all of them, but I will get as far as I can. Okay, fine. Save docs. He won't screw with me. Yay, okay. Double spacing, yay! Remove this bookmark link. I know what that's there for. Okay. In the world of Sopho, high in the Voravashek Mountains, lay the feline realm of Unica and its capital city, Forest, the highest city in the known world. Above the city was the first day of the second year of winter. Xavier was in a typical snow worker. So I think one thing is like starting in the this, more formal intro is a little less common in modern writing. And I think that's what I'm thinking, because I don't want to say, oh, you should start with some action, start with the hook. But the reason is that it doesn't very strongly hook the reader. However, this does give some, stylistic, give a more elegant style to the intro, but yeah, it will come with the drawback of not having as strong of a hook. And most writers now prioritize the hook over kind of like the stylistic, because there is a stylistic advantage to saying, once upon a time there was a great castle in the world of Sopho, high in the Volvachek Mountains. You could almost feel like Tolkien was reading that to you. Um, but yeah, I think in more modern literature, that stylistic advantage of having this kind of formal, feeling to the world is generally traded off for starting with, hey, so and so was running through the forest. You look behind them, 5, huge wolves, pounce like, prowling through the trees, their eyes glowing red, like immediately you're in the action. Like, that seems to be much more common. And one thing to check is like go and read 5 to 10 high fantasy books, really thick ones, because those are the ones that will tend to also use this device, and see kind of what they choose. But even in Dune, I think, so I still have it on my, oh gracious, and I'm tired. That's a good sign. Hopefully I can sleep tonight. That will be great. Do I have Dune on here? You know what? I'm gonna actually do Age of Myth, which is a story I just read, but it's a modern epic fantasy. A modern epic fantasy. This is how it starts. Wraith's first impulse was to pray. Curse, cry, scream, pray. People did such things in the last minutes of their life. Very different. I mean, this is just as big of a high fantasy. It's a big old high fantasy book. As opposed, so like these are the it's just something to be aware of and to make your own choices. So the Sword of Shannara. So this is the Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. You know, the sun was already sinking into the deep green of the hills to the west of the valley, and the red and gray pink of its shadows touching the corners of the land when Flick Ormsford began his descent. The trail stretched out unevenly down the northern slope, winding through the huge boulders which studded the rugged terrain. So like there's like a scene. So like these are really helpful things to be aware of. Like how are people starting their scene? So one was with action, one was with scene description. This is with exposition, and that's going to be a tougher sell. So that's a long thing, but obviously some people do it. Like if you read Lord of the Rings, they do it in that. Obviously that's a book of a different generation, right? Like it's a book that was published in, the 40s. I forgot I wanted to read this. Let's see. The Fellowship of the Ring. Being the first part of the Lord of the Rings. A long expected party. Can you take me there? No, I have to do this. God, I hate this. Forward to the second edition. Alright, hold on. I'm going to get there, I promise. Concerning hobbits. The book is largely concerned with hobbits, and from its pages the readers may discover much of their character and little of their history. So that's a big thing. It's like, he's doing that exposition thing. Grandpa Tolkien did it. It's not all bad, but it's definitely something you should really be thinking about. Xavier wasn't a typical snow leopard, nor were any of his kin. Where normal snow leopards had yellow eyes, they had silver. Who? So we're still. So this is I think this is a misplaced pronoun. Might be he. Since Xavier is the last subject. Is the a normal snow leopard's fur. So yeah, just some cleanup of apostrophes here. I'm gonna go ahead and put on suggesting. So leopard's fur was tones of yellow. So again, the verb is really critical, and this is I'm going to be jumping in a little bit more sentence level detail for the first few things. Normally, if I was doing a full edit, I'd go into this like for most of it. But remember, the verb is critical. Was is usually a, weaker verb. Is there a way the sentence to have a stronger verb? Or maybe you even set it in a scene where like, yellow fur rippled in the sunlight. Or if you still want to have it in this kind of more expository voice, Xavier's pride, yeah, something like that. I'll let you figure it out. Only Foxy is perfect. That's true. Or Final can't pick out any flaws. I mean, that's a challenge. Like, everyone's going to have stylistic differences, right? And, like, thanks, boss. Very good notes. I hope it helps. I hope it helps. I'll go back to editing soon. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, awesome. And I would just say, like, don't get too carried away, with the unreliable narrator. They're so fun to write. And that's a first draft. So, like, in the first draft, just have fun. Whatever gets you to finish the first draft, do that. But in the second draft, just be like, okay, this is a device. Everything's a device. I'm trying to make a product. How do I make this the best product it can be? Just be really, really like it's like it was a great story. It sounded like you had so much fun writing it, but once you get out of that first draft mode, you kind of, as cruel as it sounds, like, it's just sort of like, hey, then you have to kind of get to brass tacks a little bit and say, what's going to make this drive towards my goal as effectively as possible. Um, yeah, Foxy is perfect. Yes, she is. Actually, no, she's not. She wouldn't say that. I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Foxy is a very, very kind woman, and she's forgiven me for being a knucklehead many times, and thankfully, um, God's helping me hopefully do the same. I have to aspire to that. I think we all have to. I have to aspire to be more kind and forgiving every day. He has. They are perfect. I am Satan. So you would know if you've seen the infamous picture. That is one of my favorite pictures. Um, oh dear, Satan. Alright, the fur was pitch black with silver spots. He was born in Bastardly Elysium. Okay. So, like, these types of facts, can, these, expository facts come out in a conversation? Is he trying to, push a, policy through the government? They hate on him because... And I'll send you the notes as well. You can guess which one is me. 667's the chick on the right. In case you were wondering. That's the foxy lady on the left. Yeah. He's in the blue shirt. Foxy is Geronimo. That's true. She's the 667. Foxy is Geronimo. Unworthy of an heir to anything in Elysium. Yeah, I think this is like such a compelling. So like this is like a this is a really compelling set of stakes. Maybe he like is by skill set the best person to rule. He's kind. But the only thing that's blocking him think of a scene, an example scene where this could be shown. Even allow, even just asks, what's a situation where this would be a problem? Right. Xavier stood at one of the 7 transepts of the original cathedral, able to say 10,000 comfortably and 20,000. So numbers are always hard. So this is actually a really good example that I don't get to talk about a lot, so I'm glad we're doing it. Exact numbers and specific directions are always hard. Consider using like What's a good example? Exact numbers, specific declaration is always really hard, but easier to visualize metaphor. Are you doing another? Yes, I am. This is the other edit. What are you calling him a liar? Never. Final is gay. I'm a man, and I'm foxy. He is the all thing, dude. 667 is the all mind, the all creature. Simple gender distinctions are meaningless to him. Um, he laughs at all those people who fight over, you know, specific names for certain things, because it's all the same when you're at that level of existence, I'm past this. No. This is my last one. So I'm gonna do this story, and I'm probably gonna head to bed after this. It's getting pretty late, but I still got a few good minutes. I got some time left. I think the rockstar name you're searching for is 667 Ghost Bath, dog. You're right. He does look like a rock star. That rock star's name is Ghost Bath. I guess that's the band's name, but whatever. All right. Exact numbers and specific definitions are always hard to visualize for a reader. Consider using more easier to visualize metaphor. Like an instance, like the hall was as large as the lake outside. That's a bad example, but you kind of get what I'm saying. This was needed and they remained in stasis. They hadn't passed 4 lifetimes. Today was a fun day in Xavier's job. One of every 200 children who came to the world had won the High Templar Lottery of Blessing. This meant the parents could come to the temple and have them blessed personally. I wonder, like, we're still so high level, so early. We're on page 3, I think, already now, aren't we? Yeah, this I think is page 3. Yeah, we're on page 2. We're on page 2, and we haven't, gotten into scene yet. I can't place exactly where I am. The challenge is when we describe, the main character, we don't see him in a room. We see him as if he's in a character generator for a video game, spinning. And I think the other thing too is, like, I'm noticing that you have so many details in here, and I think it's one of those things where, like, so many of the details of the story are great for you to know as a writer, but sometimes they will cut the drama if you report on all of them and say, hey, you have thought about 30 days of this, da 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 da. He's yellow fur, this thing, these eyes, this is different, this makes him specific. You have that character sheet, but why? You don't necessarily have to give me that amazing character sheet you've developed at the very beginning. And all, like, the pedigree of, like, how he ranks, he's a bastard, those types of things. Let them come out in the context of a scene. Think about examples where that would be a problem, and then work those examples into the scene. We're like, okay, well, an example of when being a bastard would be a problem in this world, where he has no power, even though he might be smarter than a lot of folks, is when he's trying to put a policy through. So maybe during this event, when they're in this Templars thing, maybe somebody's trying to, like, push a policy through, and he's like, no, don't do that, that's a bad policy. And they're like, you can't stop us, you stupid, blah 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 blah. And that would be, like, a really great example of, okay, something he wants, a goal, is blocked by the obstacle of his pedigree. And then we don't just know that, oh, he is going to have troubles because he's a bastard. We actually experience one of the troubles with the character. And that's really, really important. So think of these examples. Every time you write something on this character sheet, like he's he's an illegitimate child, he doesn't have the rights. Think of situations. Remember, stories are about situations, not facts. Stories are about situations. We have been getting facts. We need to transition to situations, Um, you know, right. For Xavier, it had been 30 days of getting to snuggle, cuddle, and pet Nikkei. So he's at the end of it. This is the last day. So why is he looking forward to it? Today was a fun day. Okay. This makes it feel... Oh, goodness. Wrong button. This makes it feel like it's the first day, but I learn later that it's last. Okay, the rest of the year he wished he could sleep. He could skip. That was spent working with the pride leaders of each feline realm. So where is he standing right now? Is he in the throne room? Stood at one of their... Okay. So we don't get that until... I would just start the story here. Maybe even later. No, I don't think I'm doing another story past this. Alright, there was hominided the primate neighbors in the North Continent. They hated non-primates. Early attempts to their attempt to invade the southern continent. The only thing that saved this southern continent was the sapiens of Dragomir. They were the first feralhood long before all others. The Dragomir had an empire that could have taken the world, helping it advance and grow. Cool. So yeah, I want to see him, he said, this is, this is his favorite day. Why don't I see him blessing kids and, giving hugs? He's just, he's apparently just standing and thinking about their history. This doesn't feel too organic. Try to think of, scene moments when the history would become relevant. Then, deliver history. All right. I'm listening to music on the side, so that's why I'm dancing. But I can't play it because I want the edits to be saved. That was only his Templar duties. Every moment of his time was spent being a pride leader. During the time lights, each window is a... Next, please. Okay. So one of the most important things, I think I would start here. Actually, I think I would start here. I think I'd move. What would I do? Cut that. put that up here. You know, the story I think should start here. Start the story here. This is, you know, consider maybe. Shouldn't be too prescriptive, you know. This is where, and you feel long, in-depth action scenes. As a reader, they bore me very quickly. Is that the same for you all? I think action scenes can be very long as the plot is still progressing. And I think the problem with a lot of action scenes is whenever there's a fight, unless there's some actual plot events happening, the plot comes to a grinding halt until the fight's over. So yeah, just making sure that when you're writing action that you're still progressing, there's new information coming to light, there's new character development happening. I think that's like, I think the thing that in my point of view makes a big difference. Both couples are 14 years old. The parents had negotiated an arranged marriage known as birthmates. Unless they didn't get along, you know, so you know, we are in a close third person with Xavier. It feels a little so sometimes, especially when you're in a scene, if a character starts thinking about some backstory or starts thinking about like, oh, these are marriages as birth mates, you know, that will be a bit jarring because it feels like the character is suddenly just like, oh, this is, you know, just coming up with it. So I would just make sure that, yeah, I would just make sure that you're really being careful about working that in. Actually, just remembered something. Gotta do some stuff for the chess app today. Or I can do it tomorrow too. Who cares? I'll just grab the things. Y'all should be playing Chess Puzzle Blitz, the final boss game. Should have mentioned it earlier when we had a bunch more folks on, but give it a shot. Give it a play. Trying to get this thing off the ground, so we'll find out what happens. It's been a bit of a wild ride, I'll tell you. You should make a challenge feature. It does, yeah. I mean, so the matchmaking is a little harder, but you can eventually do that. Oh no, why is it starting again? How the heck? Did I start again? Did I just find a bug? Did I just have 2 games? Weird. Alright. Yeah, we're hopefully to get friend features soon. Yeah, we're gonna get challenge features and stuff soon. Most of the time they send females to the males prior to forget they ever existed. I feel like we're getting so much data on this culture. I think we just need, you know, if you want. I think the problem too is that we're blending some of the data with scene. You know, like just give us like the cultural rundown. Just write a chapter that's just all the data, and then jump into scene. You know, mixing them together is just really hard because you asking the reader to change context. I'm trying to care about what's going on in the throne room, and I'm trying to remember all this facts. So, like, just give us a facts chapter, and then give us a scene chapter. Separate them. You know, my recommendation would be to, if you wanna keep all the facts, to give us a separate chapter with just straight facts, like it's written by a historian. Then give us a straight, a scene chapter with just events and characters. The more we mix those two together, the harder it is to context switch as a reader, make the scene believable. Mic issues? What? There it goes. It's like if it's an inch away, it's so quiet. Alright, we're back, I think. At least the jumping line tells me so. This is one of the worst headsets I've ever purchased, so never get Arctis Steel Series. Steel Series? Trash. Trash headset. TMPLR, I think? Everyone in the lottery would receive a gift. Okay, so more stuff. So I'm just like I'm losing track of the story because there's just so much data, and then we jump back to the scene randomly. Like, well, now they start a couple dresses and rebundled it. Couples dressed and rebundled. The strain of his throat from repeating these words fade out of the healing honor. Our resident sub-bus me attacks him somewhat. What? I thought this was his favorite time. You know, this is the challenge with doing a lot of telling sometimes. the showing will disagree. So like, this was the only month. So like our setup was that this was the only month of his job that he liked. Um, so we had to kind of really buy into that and make that a thing, you know. Mecca and Zenos were gambling with dice. 13-year-olds were two of the four males in his polyandry. Meekin, his grandson, was his first son. Ezekiel had been a wild ward from the lowlands 5 years ago. Yeah. In this big thing? How did he not notice this earlier? Especially a glance will, show what they're doing. This doesn't seem allowed in the fancy. The voice playing looked up and Saber in unison. We already know from their game of dice. These are the typical markings of a snow leopard. This is like fun dialogue, yeah. This is fun dialogue. Can we, take out some of the raw exposition? Alright. You're doing a good job here, Tease. If you said this out to his patience, you're gonna need it when the kittens arrive. Patience is boring. I want to go to work in the foundry. Yeah, the foundry. In their first life. Ah, see, this is great. Like, I love this. I love this. Getting a fact without its explanation. I don't need to know what the first life is now. It's a fact that you reference it and don't give me a history on it. Turns it into a mystery. Unless it's earlier and I missed it. Did I miss it? Yeah, see? It's the first mention of a first life. That's great. I'm so excited. I thought so. I was like reading pretty closely. I feel stupid. There's so much information I can't keep track of everything. What do you mean? In writing? So much information. I think that's why practice matters so much in writing, is sort of like doing a sport. Like when you're playing a sport you're really used to, you don't think about every movement you're making, like yeah, initially when you're learning to walk, you think about every movement you have to make to walk, you know, but then that becomes second nature, it becomes automatic, and then you can focus on other things like how to run and kick a ball. And then once dribbling becomes normal, then you can think about the, other higher level thing. Oh, the novel you're writing. There's a lot of data. I think that's kind of the fact that it's not infected, but like imposing on the scene a little bit, is a little jarring. I think that's something that the writer will really want to think about, separating it out if he wants to keep it. But yeah, there's a lot. All right, I got another. I think it's about 1 a.m. now. Might have to sign on off. It was as mature as Mecca, not yet. We never do anything for that's fun. Oh, you poor, terrible, abused. The moment he's This is fun. Like, this seems like a nice, solid scene. I really like, I really like this scene work. Can't this just be the start? Don't think I need all the data, about the world. Only give me information I need to understand the next scene. The conflict of the next scene. That's it. Something with your cousin. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give my notes here. So I'm gonna do overall. So all right. Read some of your novels. Are you going for a gamer girl direction, or is it more about magical world stuff? Um, that character is a gamer girl who is shoved into a magical world. So she'll probably have to, unfortunately, interact with the magical world more rather than doing what she wants to do and be a gamer girl. She wants to be a gamer girl. She's just probably not going to get the chance. All right. Maybe the evil. Why would an author do that to her? Poor gal. I know. She has kind of a tough. She has one of the tougher journeys in the story, unfortunately for her. But that's what makes her stronger. That's what I have to remember when I go through difficult things in life. I have to remember, I'm doing this to my characters, and it's what makes them stronger in the end. And what makes them become more human, really. Is to be able to go through a difficult journey and be more compassionate and more kind. So, food for thought for myself, especially. How can we generate scene conflict and drama? Maybe, Xavier gets mad at the kids, and then they say they don't have to listen to him because he's a, he's an illegitimate all right. Overall, great work, Grover. I really think you've been putting so much awesome stuff into the Sopho. Is that the right way to pronounce it? This series is such a fun. Yeah, Sopho. I think it's pronounced right. Into the Sopho series. Such a fun world you've built. Wishing you all the best in your revisions, and I'm really, really looking forward to reading what you come up with next. Hopefully, these kind of revisions help you kind of, move even closer to where you want the story to be. Obviously, for both 667 and for Grover, if this stuff doesn't work for you, if my notes don't fit your vision, don't accept them. Remember, these are always supposed to be additive. They're always supposed to help you get closer to your vision and hopefully not turn you towards another vision. So everything I'm writing here, I'm trying to say, okay, what do I think you're going for, and how can I help you get there faster? So, anyways, I am pooped. I'm heading off to bed, but it was so great reading your work and chatting with folks on chat. It's always just wonderful to hear your insights on writing. So, anyways, cheers everybody. Take care, and I'll hopefully see you all very soon.